welcome back to my channel, or welcome if it's your first time here. I'm Lindsay, and I am doing an unscripted video, the mid-year freak out tag, the mid-year book freak out tag. So it's kind of unscripted, but I'm answering questions, so it's fine. I'm just gonna jump into it. I've done one tag video, I've done 2 tag videos before, so this should be fun. So I am reading my questions off of mrusbooksandreviews.com. So that's just, wanted to credit that and just say that in case anybody was wondering where I was getting these questions from. And the first question is, what have you been reading? The blogger, they answered this by saying what they plan on reading in June. So I'm just gonna say what I'm currently reading and kind of what I have plans to read. So currently reading Emily Wilde's, if you guys saw the poll, I asked if I should read Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies before One Dark Window. Because those are the 2 things I was planning on reading next. I'm also, of course, going to read the sequel to Emily Wilde after I finish it, and I have been vlogging that, and I'm going to vlog reading both the books, and then I plan on reading One Dark Window, and hopefully I like that enough to read the sequel to that. And I have so many fantasy and romantasy books for this next month. I cannot remember all of them. I know Tress of the Emerald Sea, I did not word that well, but Tress of the Emerald Sea is one of the ones I plan on reading. Iron Widow, I remember. I'm finally gonna read Howl's Moving Castle, so I'm gonna have a lot of reading vlogs from these books while I'm reading these books. Not quite sure what I'm trying to say here, but that's what I have in store and just what I'm reading. The next question is best book you've read so far. So I kind of just did a video about this, talking about my book recs for the first half of the year, the books that I like the most the first half of the year. My top 2, I think, would be The Prisoner's Throne, of course, and The Ballad of Never After. Just that book, it broke me. I already said this, but it truly broke me. I knew things were gonna happen, and then when they happened, it still was a shock and still broke me. And then Caraval was also a really good one. I have really gotten into Stephanie Garber books lately, so I can't wait to read more, since she has another coming out this year, and I feel like she's gonna do a lot more with this world, and I'm very excited. And also I feel like Holly Black is going to write more in the Folk of the Air, because it kind of hinted at like maybe another Jordan book, even if it's a novella. So I'm in love with those 2 worlds, and I feel like I'm being treated so well. The next question is best sequel you've read so far, which is what I kind of just said. The Prisoner's Throne is a sequel to The Stolen Heir, and I really like that, but the best sequel, I'm sorry to The Prisoner's Throne, I do think sequel-wise, The Ballad of Never After has to be one of the best second books I have ever read. I'm so sorry to The Folk of the Air, I love that whole series so much, but that second book, like, for me, the series of The Book of the Air as a whole, like, I can't even pick a favorite book from that series. From Once Upon a Broken Heart, The Ballad of Never After is truly my favorite book, and I think it's the best sequel I've read so far. Legendary was also a good sequel. I'm trying to think of other sequels I've read. I think those were probably the best sequels I've read this year. Ballad of Never After, The Prisoner's Throne, and Legendary. Yeah, I'm in my monthly reading wrap-up for May and June. I kind of combine those. I'm going to talk about other sequels, but those were my favorite sequels for this year. So the next question is new release you want to read but haven't gotten the chance to, but you haven't yet. I have had so many new releases this year that piqued my interest that I haven't gotten to read because of my physical TBR being what it is. But I wanted to read Bride. I wanted to read, there was another book, what's it called? Not in Love by Ali Hazelwood. There's so many books that came out this year. The Familiar by Leigh Bardugo, I wanted to read that. So I have so many books that came out this year. Pretty much all of my anticipated releases for this year, I haven't gotten to read yet, except The Prisoner's Throne. But that's because I just paused everything to read that because it was my most anticipated release. but everything else I'm kind of sticking to the plan of my TBR for the most part. I can be a little bit of a mood reader, but pretty much everything I wanted to read this year I still haven't read, because it's been like I said in my reviews or my recommendations for this first half of the year, the books I have planned for the second half of the year are the ones I'm really looking forward to. Even though I very much liked books for the first half of the year, I was also reading very random books and weren't as much as my anticipated releases. Listen, there's too many books to read. This is the problem I have. I get so overwhelmed when I go to a library or a bookstore, is that like there are so many books I know that I would like and I want to read them all. But why? Why must I do other things? Why can't I just read all the time? I don't understand. I truly, why? The next question is most anticipated release for the second half of the year. So I am looking forward to Spectacular by Stephanie Garber. I also, Fairies Never Lie, I believe comes out, hasn't come out yet. That was a book I talked about in my anticipated releases. And a lot of the books that I'm about to read have sequels coming out later in the year, so I haven't read them yet, so we'll see. But I'm thinking I'm really gonna love those books, and then I'm gonna love the sequel, like Iron Widow has a sequel coming out. So I have a lot of anticipated releases for the second half of the year as well. Most of the ones I talked about in my video, I think haven't really come out yet. There's so many books. Like I just said, I'm getting overwhelmed just thinking about it. The next question is a book that's out of your comfort zone. I would say that would be The Love Hypothesis. I just vlogged, it was like a month ago, probably over a month ago at this point. The Love Hypothesis, when I read that, I hadn't read contemporary romance, modern contemporary romance, because I had read some from the early 2000s earlier this year, but I really hadn't read many contemporary romance books for a while before reading that. I also hadn't really read a popular booktok book besides Fourth Wing, which I didn't like, sorry. So I was nervous going into Ali Hazelwood and Love Hypothesis since it was so popular on the internet. But I really enjoyed it. So it took me out of my comfort zone in the sense that I hadn't really read contemporary romance, modern contemporary romance for a while, and I hadn't read a really popular, like, super hyped book on the internet since Fourth Wing, and I didn't like Fourth Wing, so I was very scared. But I enjoyed it. I actually really enjoyed it. Like I said, now I want to read Bride and I want to read Not in Love, and I probably will read the chess one. I can't remember what it's called, but I think, like, while it's not perfect, I actually think she did a good job and, like, made an interesting plot, and there were some parts that weren't my favorite, but still, I was, you know, Ali Hazelwood's pretty good, gotta say. The next question is biggest disappointment. So I'm going to talk about this more in my May and June reading wrap-up, but the biggest disappointment for me this year, I think, was because of how much it was recommended to me, and what I think I expected from it was from Blood and Ash. I did like the first book, but as a series-wise, I was kind of like, it didn't do for me what I was hoping. Like, it didn't really capture me and my attention that much. I'll talk about it more. I didn't finish the series. I don't like to DNF, but I did. So again, I will talk about that more in May and June, because this is unscripted, but I wrote down my thoughts on why I liked it but didn't love it and didn't like it enough to keep reading it. But yeah, unfortunately, that was my biggest disappointment. So for biggest surprise, I would also say The Love Hypothesis, because I was kind of out of my comfort zone in the sense that I hadn't read a book like that in a while, and because it was a booktok book, and in the past I hadn't liked the one I had read, so I was pleasantly surprised. I didn't think I'd hate it, but I didn't think I'd like it as much as I did. So again, like, pleasantly surprised, makes me want to read more Ali Hazelwood. If I want to read more of your books, that's always a good sign. So biggest surprise for sure was The Love Hypothesis. I mean, if you also want to say biggest surprise is like The Ballad of Never After, and the way that it surprised me, and the way Caraval and Stephanie Garber books have twists that surprise me, that's a little different. I don't know if that's what this question is asking, but they surprised me. The next question is new favorite author. My new favorite author, I think it's been mentioned already. Stephanie Garber has definitely won me over with her books. She's definitely one of my favorites. Once Upon a Broken Heart, I liked Caraval a lot. I would say I loved Caraval, but I loved Once Upon a Broken Heart. So she won me over with that, and then I kept liking her when I read Caraval, even though you're supposed to read that one first. I would recommend reading that one first, but it's whatever you want to do. Yeah. she's definitely up there as one of my favorite authors right now, for sure. V.E. Schwab, I really liked The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, so I think I'm going to read more V.E. Schwab books as well. But Stephanie Garber, the next question is newest fictional crush. And the thing is, I have fictional crushes, like I've always had fictional crushes, but I wasn't someone that like collected book boyfriends with every series that I read. And I really liked Cardan, but I saw him at like 19, and so I was just like, he's literally just a little guy. And then in the newest book, in The Prisoner's Throne, he's 27, and I was like, okay, like, why you gotta, you know? So I would say currently, like, I always loved Cardan, but now I'm like, okay, I kind of like, I have a little bit of a crush on you now. Actually, if I'm being honest, Cardan was my newest fictional crush when I read The Prisoner's Throne, but my current newest fictional crush is Asterion, and that has nothing to do with reading, so I wasn't going to mention that, but I have to be honest, that's newer than Cardan. So the next question is newest favorite character. I would say that would be Jackson Evangeline for sure. They, you know, if you watch that video I did talking about Once Upon a Broken Heart, it's mostly spoiler-free reviews, so I highly recommend going to check that out. I very much became obsessed with Evangeline and Jax, and they are definitely one of my ships right now. And Scarlett and Donatella, like them a lot. Julian and everyone in Stephanie Garber's world right now, or just past, whatever. I love her characters, so those are probably my newest favorite characters, are Stephanie Garber characters. The next question is books that made you cry, so Stephanie Garber books, The Ballad of Never After for sure, even A Curse for True Love. I would say, Invisible Life of Addie LaRue definitely made me cry. Caraval actually made me cry. That series made me cry. I kind of cry easily, so this is an interesting question for me, but I don't mind it when a book makes me cry. I want a book to make me feel things, so thank you. And the question after that is books that made you happy. Also Stephanie Garber books, Once Upon a Broken Heart series, Caraval series, The Prisoner's Throne, that made me cry too. That's in the books that made me cry, and it's in the books that made me happy. Why are the books that made me cry also in the books that made me happy, and why do I love that so much? But both those made me cry, and both those made me very, very happy. And I would also say, I honestly can't remember all the books that I've read this year. Persuasion was a book I really loved. I talked about that in my last video. So yeah, I can't remember. But I know there were lots of books that made me happy. Okay, so sorry, my battery died. But the next question was favorite book to movie adaptation I've seen this year. I haven't seen any this year. I don't know how many book to movie adaptations have come out this year actually. I haven't seen a lot of movies in general. I need to watch more movies. I have a list of movies I want to see. The last movie I watched this year was on a plane. I watched The Holdovers. It was really good. I don't know if it was based off a book. Either way, it was really good. So that's all I'm going to say about that because I don't have anything else to say. And that was actually the last question because the other one on here I think is specific to bloggers. It's your favorite post you've written this year. I don't know, maybe check out my Instagram posts. I think my captions are fun sometimes. But that's all I have for this video. I enjoy doing these tags, so if you guys know of any other book tag videos, let me know in the comments below. If you like reading fantasy, romantasy, all different types of genres. I read different types of genres. I'm getting more into contemporary romance, but fantasy is definitely, and romantasy are definitely my favorites, and contemporary is getting up there too, so we will see. But yeah, just subscribe for books and for more videos like this and more scripted videos and vlogs. I have so many vlogs planned this year, so if you like reading vlogs, please like and subscribe, and I will see you soon. Bye!